Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
The Bears.
Because of the way they play the nickel corner here, and the nickel corner plays 88, 85% of the snaps. He's got to be like part linebacker.
The Bears.
When you're in a scouting room, there's going to be differences of opinion.
The Bears.
Once coaches get involved, of course, they've got their own opinions about what fits best for what they want to do, and that could be drastically different than what the scouts say.
Well, you're looking at traits, and number one, he tested very, very well.
The Bears.
One thing good about Kevin, he's been with 2 other organizations, as well as being the commissioner of the Big Ten. He's been around.
The Bears.
With Greg Olson, Jerry didn't want to get rid of him. I didn't want to get rid of him. Nobody wanted to get rid of him. One guy wanted to get rid of him. Mike Martz, because Mike Martz didn't know what the hell to do with him. We tried to talk Lovey out of hiring Mike Martz for a month and a half. He's playing zone, but number one, he doesn't get enough depth with the drop. But
right.
Who the hell's good? How many times does a 305, 310-pound defensive tackle drop into coverage, especially in a key situation?
The Bears.
Greg, why are teams wrong on quarterback evaluation so often?
Number one, it's a hard position to evaluate. There's probably not as many real good quarterback evaluators as there needs to be.
The Bears. The Bears. The Bears.
Welcome everyone to GTF, Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia, and I'm just going to ask you once, and then I'm not going to bring it up again. Please hit the like button. Please hit the bell for a reminder and subscribe to the Barroom Network. That way you will be aware of all of the programming that goes on live here at the Barroom Network. And that includes Mike North's Advantage, which is at 3 p.m. Central today. And if you're listening on audio podcasts, you know what to do. Leave a review. Tell people how great Greg is. Greg Gabriel. And let me bring him in now. Greg Gabriel, how are you, my friend?
Victory Monday. It's always good.
Yeah, it's a good feeling, isn't it? Especially that monumental big ass win yesterday. So what are your impressions?
I'm not going to say it was unexpected, but a little bit unexpected because as we've seen with Bear teams in the past, when they play poor teams, they almost play down to the level of comp. Yeah. And then and you're struggling to win. This is obviously the best game they've played this year. And I think that part of it is that everybody's growing. You know, you had a partially new offensive scheme. A lot of the terminology and stuff was the same, but how the plays were going to be called and some of the formations they were going to use are different. And you have a rookie quarterback, so he's got to grow. You can see that week after week after week. Like yesterday was the first time when you pay attention to the game, he was coming up to the line of scrimmage and audibleizing a lot and seeing things and which is good to see, especially for such a young quarterback. And I don't want to hear all this stuff about Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels playing an entirely different type situation. And frankly, I don't think they played a defense that's worth a shit. But you know, when you're going to compare Jaden Daniels to Caleb Williams when they play each other in 3 weeks.
Yep, that'll be the time. Absolutely, that'll be the best defense that Daniels will have played, and we see this. I don't even want to call it incremental progress from Caleb because it's much better than that, you know. And I know that some people are already saying it's Carolina, but there is no doubt. Yeah, they're
pro football players.
Exactly. That pass to DJ Moore for the touchdown, the second touchdown of the two.
Pass. Great pass.
Yes. Outstanding, man. The kid has a phenomenal arm.
Yeah, he didn't put any air under that ball. He drove it. And he put it, had it just right over the arms of the defender, right on target, right where it was supposed to be. couldn't ask for a better throw. And DJ, he said after he goes, I knew as soon as the ball left his hand, it was a touchdown.
Yeah.
So, but I like he's more decisive, making decisions quicker, getting the ball out of his hand quicker, throwing with accuracy. The worst throw he had was the first throw of the game, which could have been a disaster. Then I read, I think it was this morning in Big's column, that actually the wind was playing a role in that. Which when you're watching on TV, you don't know how bad the wind is.
Right.
And I should. I've been to enough games in that stadium to know that it swirls and it's brutal. And that's why, like Pep said, it's one of the 2 worst stadiums in the league to play in. As far as
for a quarterback
conditions, for a quarterback, and that's one of the reasons why you don't get quarterbacks throwing for 4,000 yards here. So, but the wind kind of took that ball. It wasn't a great throw to begin with, but the wind took it a little bit. And so instead of being in front of Keenan, it was behind him. And it's a hell of a play by Keenan, really, to play defensive back on that. Or it could have been a pick 6 the other way. And then who knows what the hell would have happened in the game. But, throw out that second drive of Carolina. And I rewatched that play about 5 times. And the Bears, we've said it a million times, they play gap control defense. Everybody's responsible for a gap. Well, that play started to the left and the offensive left. And then he cut back. It was a subtle cutback. And the Bears defense had pretty much over pursued to their right, leaving a huge, both linebackers were already over to the left a huge gap in the middle. So really it was just a happenstance of not playing your gap and having a guy there to be able to stop the play. And that's a very correctable thing.
Yeah. Who was it? I just had it up on the screen. Somebody says that Caleb is going to be his own offensive coordinator, just like Tom Brady was. He's already taking a big role in calling plays after just 5 games. Do you foresee that for Caleb, that he's going to be kind of the master of his own destiny, for lack of a better way of putting it? Way
too early to even think about that. I mean, and I don't totally agree with that because, Belichick, even though Belichick wasn't the offensive coordinator, for a period of time was Charlie Weiss and Josh McDaniels. But Belichick had a big hand in it. And you know how Caleb meets with Flus every Monday morning?
Right.
Well, Brady would meet with Belichick. And they discuss the game plan and and Brady had a lot of input, but when you're as good as Tom Brady is, you should get. And that was years before that happened. It wasn't like as a rookie or as a second year or whatever. But Caleb can do some things. He's got one negative that'll hurt him, and it really hasn't happened since about the first game. Is he used to get? He's short and he got a lot of balls batted down. But he's got real long arms, and that coming over the top, that should negate that a little bit. But teams are still trying to take away his ability to get out on the perimeter and make plays. But he's getting better at everything he does. I think part of it's patience. He's not hurrying throws. And he's going through progressions.
He's getting comfortable with the offensive line, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But I want to get this out of the way because you mentioned it just a little while ago, and it's going to be a ongoing topic for weeks. Saran is saying, Greg, please talk about Caleb versus Daniel's scheme debate. Why do some teams use a huge amount of college concepts for a rookie quarterback and others don't? Seems like the Bears have never employed that strategy. It is interesting. The Bears did interview Cliff Kingsbury, and he seems to have made a splash here early on because he's adapted the offense to what Jaden Daniels has done collegiately. So there hasn't been that big learning curve, and it's really adapted to his style. Whereas with Luke Getsy and Justin Fields, it wasn't that way. It was Luke Getsy's way. And Shane Waldron has come in and wanted to install some of his things, but it looks like Caleb is taking more and more, being more vocal to Shane about this is what I like and this is what I don't like. Why is that some teams gravitate towards helping the quarterback with adapting their college scheme and some prefer not to?
Well, I number one, I don't. In the case of Daniels, yes. And it's not even totally Cliff Kingsbury's scheme.
Okay.
They're playing LSU's scheme. Okay, so they're doing what he's done for like 3 years or 2 years at LSU, and so he's very comfortable with it, even to the point where some of the terminology is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, but is that going to help him grow as a pro? Now he's seeing different defenses and everything that's going to help, but what he's being asked to do and what Caleb's being asked to do, totally different things.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb's asked to be, or is being asked to do a lot more than Daniels is being asked to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, for instance, one thing that's obviously very obvious is he's asked to run the ball more. He has run the ball probably 3, maybe 4 times more than Caleb Williams. And so I worry about any quarterback that has to run the ball that often because they're not going to last in the NFL very long. You know, Justin Fields is a Superman for the amount of hits that he's taken.
Justin Fields is 230, and Daniels is lucky to be 210.
Exactly. He's lucky to be alive.
I mean, you know, he probably – I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he's just like 200 because he's a very thin dude. Caleb's a big guy. He's not tall, but he's big. He's thick. So yeah, you run a lot, do a lot of design quarterback runs with him, and he gets smacked around a little bit. He gonna get hurt. Look at Andy Dalton got the shit kicked out of him yesterday.
Yes, he did.
I'll tell you another one who got killed yesterday. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers took a bigger beating yesterday than I've ever seen him take.
Yeah.
And he looked like a 40-year-old quarterback yesterday.
He sure did. All right, before we talk about the offensive line, which is, you know, they really need to be talked about, this is sort of an offensive line question from Brummy Bear. He says, Aldo, can you ask Greg what Coleman Shelton meant when he shouted, "The fucking cows are on fire"? Did you hear that on the broadcast? It was live over national TV, and Coleman Shelton is saying,
I recorded the game. I got to go back. When?
Yeah, I want to say it was sometime in the second quarter. The announcers made reference to that, saying something's on fire, I guess, and they laughed about it. I wish I would have pulled the clip. It would have been fun to share that with you. But if anyone has more information on that,
recall it.
Yeah, I'll find the clip and send it to you.
I think sometimes.
Yeah, I hate it when somebody mentions something, you got to go find it. I'll try to find the exact point in the game and send that to you. Swifty says he didn't say the cows are on fire. He was identifying the blitzer. Also, it wasn't cows. He was saying something is on fire, and that was identifying the blitzer. That would make a lot of sense. But it was still hilarious.
That's the center's job.
Right.
Depending on the offense, like I know when Pep was here under Turner, the first thing the center had to do when coming up to the line of scrimmage and the quarterback, whatever, is identify the mic.
Right.
So they're looking at the thing, and the Mike linebacker doesn't necessarily have to be the Mike linebacker by name. It's by how he's lined up.
Right.
So they'd go 53 is the Mike, 55 is the Mike, or something like that, depending on how they see the defensive formation. So it's all different ways of telling your teammates what the hell's going on, what the defensive alignment is. And then you have the center and the quarterback are the guys that can change the protection at the line of scrimmage. That's where we go back. Somebody said, well, they should have drafted a center. Well, you would have had and why I said it's, people that play the game, guys like Olin and even coaches say, you got a rookie center and a rookie quarterback. It's a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Because you got two people who don't know what the hell they're doing in the middle of the field. So you got to have a vet.
I will find this clip and send it to you. It happened in the second quarter with 6:10 on the clock. Thank you, New England Bears fan. All right. So wanted to follow up to what you were just saying is, so what is the tell me again, and maybe you just said it because I got distracted. Tell me again, what is the value of identifying the Mike? Does that say he's the center of the defense and things going that way?
Just a way, and again, I'm not an X and O guy.
Sure.
But it's telling, it's basically telling the offense the strength of the defensive formation of where the Mike is.
Okay. Good to know. Now, I want to talk about this Bears offense. Let's start with Coleman Shelton, who, after the first couple of games, people were calling for his head. This guy sucks. This guy, and I was one of them. I was not happy with his play at all, but he has certainly been playing much better. He seems in control. He seems comfortable. He's not getting blown to bits. Now, the Panthers' defensive tackles, I think the starters were out yesterday. At least one of them was. So, but evaluate the play of Coleman Shelton, the center, and then we'll go to the rest of the offensive line because I know you made a comment.
I thought he had his best game.
Yeah.
As a Bear yesterday. Pryor has solidified the right guard position. He's not as athletic as you'd prefer in the Bears scheme, especially when they're trying to pull. But he's a pretty good run blocker. He's a solid pass protector. He's smart. He started a lot of games in the league. He's not going to make mistakes. If he gets beat, it's going to be he gets beat physically because the other guy just plain beat him. You go over to the left side. I thought Tevin was actually playing pretty good, and then he hurt his ankle. And when I was watching it this morning on the condensed version, he hurt his ankle downfield because he was running downfield on the left side of the field, and then he's out of the camera. So I don't know what happened to him, but the next play, Murray said, well, I got to tell you something. Murray played his ass off.
Yeah.
He played, without question, the best of all the interior offensive linemen all season in one half of play.
Yeah. And J2K asked, could we potentially see Murray as the long-term replacement on the offensive line?
Well, I personally don't think, and I've thought this most of the year, I don't think Jenkins is going to be here next year. He's coming out of contract. This is 2 weeks in a row he's gotten hurt. Up until yesterday, he was not playing good. Yesterday, he actually played pretty good. But as good as Tevin played, Murray played better.
Yeah.
Now, there were a couple plays when you rewatch the game. Although, take a look. I mean, there was 2 or 3 times when he was driving a linebacker or a defensive lineman at least 8 or 9 yards off the ball, then frickin' buried him in the ground. And yeah, his pass blocking, he's very strong. I mean, he was coming out. Well, first of all, this guy, he's very, very athletic. He was like a 4'9" guy coming out. He's a defensive tackle. He's a defensive tackle that had 19 sacks total in his career. So he's athletic, but New England had him at defensive tackle for like 2 years, and then they moved him over to guard. And, took him over. They were going to cut him at the 53, I think it was last year, and to put him on the practice squad because he was new at the position. And what happened was that the Bears, I think, must have talked to the kid and talked to the agent and say, hey, wait a minute. This is 3 years in a row you're going on the practice squad. Why don't you come to get a fresh start here? I think that's what happened. Now, I'm not 100% sure. But he comes to the Bears practice squad last year and learns. And he had a damn strong camp. Because, I like Shatiri Carter. Totally outplayed Carter. Played really well in the preseason. Then he gets in yesterday, really his first opportunity to play. And I just watching the game, I'm thinking, he's playing pretty good, but I'm not really watching carefully. Yeah. So when I rewatched today, all I watched was him on the offense. I didn't care about the rest. I watched him. And it was like, holy shit.
Hmm.
I mean, really impressive stuff. And the whole line played better.
Yeah, they did.
Wright got beat for a sack. He lost his positioning on the guy. He started off good with the play and lost his positioning.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only sack they gave up. Braxton played pretty good. Shelton played better. The only thing Pryor did wrong was swing at a guy late in the game.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, he'll probably get hit with about $25K at the end of the week. And if I'm him, I what's the word I want?
Appeal
the fine.
Uh-huh.
Because when you look at it, it wasn't really a swing, but it was more he was defending the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it started with Carolina, and if you go strictly by the rules, he was wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's always going to be circumstances. I thought that him getting tossed was ridiculous. I thought the officiating as a whole was horrible. That play, the one that sticks out there's two plays.
Mm-hmm.
The holding call on Sweat that negated a nice long pass to Komet. Excuse me, to Komet. I think it was Komet. What Swift did was he had his hands out like this, but he never wrapped around, and he went real low on the linebacker coming in.
Right.
So you could, by seeing his hands out like that, you could think, well, he's going to tackle the guy. But when you watch it, he never did. He kept his hands out.
Mm-hmm.
And they never went around the guy, so it wasn't holding.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one was probably just a little after that play. They called interference on Stevenson. That was like a blind call.
Yes, it did.
there was no. If there's anything you could have called, first of all, I don't think the ball was in the air, and because it was a good 7 yards before, where the play actually ended up, and if you want to call something, it would have called defensive holding, but it really shouldn't even been that. I just thought it was a very chintzy call.
I agree with that, no doubt about it. Got some comments here I'd like you to react to. Chris is wondering about Braxton Jones and his future with the Bears. He feels like he needs to be replaced after the season. Would it be fair to say, let's let the season play out before we make a decision on Braxton Jones's future?
Yeah, he's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a perfect player? No. He's a lot better than a lot of left tackles currently in the league.
Yeah.
Fans, I get it. They want perfection. So if there's a bad play, they're going to jump all over him. Well, guess what? Guy on the other side was the first round pick. He gave up the only sack now. So, they're all going to have some bad plays.
Exactly.
He's gotten better. I said it last week. I didn't think his play this year was where I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
The line as a whole hadn't been where we wanted it to be until yesterday. Yesterday, that was a pretty clean. If you got that every week, you're happy. You're real happy.
Indeed.
So they ran the ball better. And what's happening? They're running the ball better. And so now, because of that, it's leading to a better passing game. And guess what? Defenses aren't crowding the box.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams pulled out of that last week. They started off that way, and they pulled out of it. I got to go back and look and see if Carolina even started off that way.
So, given that this defense from the Panthers was so understaffed, I mean, both of their linebackers were out, their starting linebackers, including Shaq Thompson, who's now out for the season. Jewel was out for that game. He might be out for another couple of games. Do you say
they lost more yesterday? They lost Clowney, who is an edge, but they play a base 3-4, so the edge is a defensive end, however you want to call him.
So does that cloud the, do you
No.
temper, should I say, put it this way, do you temper the play of the offensive line because of that?
No.
Why?
Because you play who you play.
Mm-hmm.
And you execute the play the way you're supposed to execute the play.
Mm-hmm.
Get a hat on a hat, win the rep, get on to the next play. What it does is it builds confidence.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does.
So
there's no doubt.
you only can play who you play.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, you've scouted perhaps maybe 750,000 players over your lifetime. When you're scouting, don't you take into account the guy that's, like for instance, the wide receiver has a 15 catch day, but the cornerback is not going to be an NFL cornerback. So don't you take that into account in your scouting? The left tackle is playing up against a right end who doesn't have an NFL future.
But and you put that in your report too. Like, I did an offensive lineman the other day, and I said he hasn't, he's played good. He's graded well, but he hasn't played anybody yet. And you put that. So yeah, you check that off. You mention it, but you also mention he's playing good. Now you want to say what you would say is now you want to see him do that against, say, Ohio State or Michigan or something like that. So then you can see if he's as good against the top competition as he is against the lesser competition.
Okay, makes sense. I like Cornelius.
And I go back to what Parcells said. He used to say, he goes, the other guys are on scholarship too.
That's right.
So.
I love that. That's a quote for a t-shirt. Cornelius makes a really good point. I think this applies to a lot of offensive linemen who, maybe be considered average. You run the ball more and Baxton will be fine. And it's the same thing with this entire offensive line. This offensive line has gotten better over the last 2 weeks because they're running the ball more. As you know, Greg, offensive linemen would rather go forward with fierceness and determination than step back and have to deal with pass rushers.
Okay, it gets really simple, and really Flus said it real good last week. And at the end of last week, he said in the first half of the game, we were behind the sticks a lot because of the pre-snap penalties and stuff like that. So now you're faced with second and long, third and long. And when you're faced with second and long, third and long, number one, you're not going to run the ball. You're going to throw the ball. And when you throw the ball, they're sending pressure. Mm-hmm. And especially if you send, like 5 or something, then that's going to make your defensive line look shitty or offensive line look shitty. So and it's not an excuse. It's just what the fact is. Sure. So now yesterday they were getting ahead of the sticks. And so they were in favorable conditions. What happened? They threw the ball better. They pass blocked better. And you got to say the two edges weren't dead meat. Harris and Clowney are decent players. Yeah. And Harris gave Wright the one problem. And Wright had him at first and then really didn't finish the block, and he lost position, gave up the sack. Part of it was Caleb ended up going right into where the defensive end was charging. So, part of that is on Caleb, but Caleb's trying to elude the pressure, so you can't put it all on Caleb. I hope that makes sense, because I had I sounded like your girl Kamala there with a lot of word salad. I had to throw that in.
There's the political jab for today, folks. Brought to you by.
I grew up in a mid. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I want to address this situation. My buddy Carl from the Thigh and Smile podcast, also Bears Country Production. I posted something yesterday because it was actually Swifty who pointed out that the Lions have the best offensive line, and they've developed it over years by dedicating high draft picks. My intent is there are many different ways. And Greg, you know this more than anyone else on planet Earth. There are many different ways to build an offensive line. So Carl says, question for Greg. Aldo told me, I know that's a typo on his part, told me that the Carolina's offensive line is the gold standard, which isn't what I said. So that's why he put the LOL. What's your thoughts on the Bears beating the Panthers offensive line with only rushing 4? Now, here's what I did. Greg, excuse me for hijacking this portion of the show. So this is how the offensive line for the Panthers, which is considered by most as a better than average offensive line. And, PFF or whatever it's worth does have them listed as number 6. So I did the research. The left tackle was a first round pick, number 6. The right tackle was a second round pick number 64. And then the interior of the offensive line, we're all
drafted by Carolina, or was he drafted by somebody else?
Taylor was drafted by Carolina because the asterisk that you'll see on the middle of the offensive line, those are guys who were all brought in via free agency. Damian Lewis, Austin Corbett, Robert Hunt. So my question for you, Greg, and you've developed plenty of offensive lines during your career in the National Football League, helped to draft and develop offensive lines. The Bears don't have to draft 5 first-rounders, right? They can build a quality offensive line by making smart choices in free agency and devoting some high draft capital, whether it's round 1 or round 2. Is that fair?
It's fair, but really what it gets down to is talent and traits. Because there's first-round picks that are busts. Okay, so you got to make the right pick.
Absolutely.
Okay, but part of it is, let's use Murray as an example. So Murray played at an FCS level school, William and Mary in Virginia. Beautiful part of Virginia, by the way. And is a defensive tackle and a really good FCS level defensive tackle. And he was signed to be a defensive tackle. But, once he got up here, and they had him for a couple of years, they go, you know what, he may be better at guard. And so they moved him over. But when you look at the athleticism, the strength, his body, the arm length, he's got long arms for guard, movement skills, everything. I mean, here's a guy that was you stole off another team's practice squad that's obviously he's got to keep playing to the level he played yesterday. But, to me, that's a building block just from the little exposure I had. I do believe that Amagaji will be a starter somewhere next year. He got his first real action yesterday. I haven't really studied it, how he played, because he didn't play that many snaps. He has been playing, I think, on field goal and punt, but he hasn't. I'm not sure about punt, but field goal and PAT. But don't forget, he missed all the live work in training camp. So this is like the first live work he's getting. So I think what it gets down to is they don't, unless you got a big lead or you're losing by a lot, you don't want to put it in there because you might not trust them. And I can't answer that fully because the coaches may fully trust him based on what he's done in practice. But to get where you're going, I can go back, and I was actually listening to the pregame show on the Score yesterday with Patrick Manley and Olin, and they said going into that, starting with OTAs for the 06 season, they knew they had a good team. We had lost the end of last season. We lost a home game to Carolina in the playoffs, in our first playoff game, the divisional round. But the team knew they were good, and they felt it like the very first day of OTAs in the offseason program. And the goal from the beginning of the offseason program was, we know how to get to the Super Bowl. We got the players to get to the Super Bowl, and we're going to get to the Super Bowl. And we did get to the Super Bowl. We won the NFC Championship. Along the offensive line, though, there was only one Chicago Bear drafted player, and that was Olin Kreutz.
Wow.
John Tate was a free agent. Garza was a free agent. Reuben Brown was a free agent. Can't remember who the right tackle was. The guy, Olin, broke his jaw over at the FBI shooting range.
That Fred Taylor, was his name?
No, it's not Taylor.
Fred
It's Fred,
something.
though. But he was a free agent, too. So and that was one of the best lines in football.
Fred Miller.
And Fred Miller. Thank you, Swifty. What are you laughing at?
It broke his jaw at the FBI shooting range. You just dropped that out of nowhere. That was awesome.
Come on, that was all in the news. It's not like something
Oh no, I know that, but a lot of people don't know that or may not remember that. And that you told me the story before. The FBI changed their rules after that.
Let me tell you, that went right to the top. That whole incident went to DC.
Oh my God.
And all of a sudden we couldn't go the FBI range anymore. And it wasn't just here, it was all over the country. That stuff, because what happened is we used to go, I was over there a few times. You go over there and the FBI SWAT team was there. That's where they trained. It was right next to the Great Lakes Naval Base, just on the north side of the naval base. And we'd go there and shoot and we'd go through this training stuff that the guys went through. Like you go into these like mock houses and you'd have a bad guy pop up out of the thing and you'd have a laser gun that you'd shoot him with. And you want to, the laser tells where you got him and if you did get him or he got you because you were late, all sorts of stuff like this. It was really cool stuff. And so the players are over there one day. And here's what the problem wasn't that they go over there and they shoot. They have like a picnic there after. And the FBI guys cook and there's hamburgers and hot dogs and all this other stuff. And they're drinking a little bit. And then, Fred and Olin got into it. And I think Fred hit Olin with like a 10-pound weight.
What?
Over the head, I think.
Oh my goodness.
And Olin finished it by breaking his jaw. So
one punch. That's an amazing story. Olin has not talked about that since, and maybe we need to get him on the show.
No, he did not long ago.
Okay.
He goes, everybody says I did it. He goes, I'm the guy who got hit with the 10-pound weight.
I love it.
So,
hey, self-defense, baby. No doubt about it. All right, I forgot what we were talking about when we went off track there.
Building an offensive line. But the whole thing is that there's a million different ways to do it.
Indeed.
So, but if you want to, but don't forget that, I mean, we had salary cap back then. Nothing compared to what it is now. My first year here, so 2001, you know what the salary cap was? It's like $65 million or $64.5 million. Well, hell, you're paying quarterbacks more than that right now. It's crazy. So it's grown tremendously, and you gotta be careful. You only can pay so many people. Everybody wants to get paid. We know that, but so you gotta mix in veterans and draft choices, and you gotta play draft choices early because of that. And so you got to make sure you're drafting the right kind of guys. It wouldn't shock me if they got 1 and 2 2s this coming spring, that 2 of those picks are used on the offensive line. But it makes sense then, because it's the same with drafting Caleb. You get rookie contracts in key positions.
Exactly. And you nailed it. Something that I've preached a lot, probably learned it from you, is that it's the investment in time and coaching to develop these guys, particularly guys who are brought in that's in day 2 of the draft, especially day 3 of the draft. You're going to have to live with mistakes in order for those guys to develop. So when you look at the Panthers line and those interior guys that were brought in via free agency, part of the I'm imagining, because I don't know these players well enough to say definitively, but I'm imagining
Robert Hunt got a lot of money. He was one of the guys that changed the guard
marketplace.
He got like $20 million, $20 million average, something like that. Got a ton of money this spring. Corbett, I believe, I may be wrong, I believe was drafted by the Rams. Does that sound right?
That sounds correct. Yes.
Okay, I don't know about Damian Lewis.
Yeah, I don't know much about him.
Was the first or second offensive lineman taken his draft.
Mm-hmm.
Played at North Carolina State, and he was a guy that really, to me, is disappointing because when you saw his college tape, you thought this guy was going to be a Pro Bowler, say, by year 2. And he hasn't reached that level yet because he was, when you just look at the athleticism, way he could move his feet, his arm length, everything, just a good-looking human being as far as having the traits that you want for a left tackle to have. Yet he hasn't really, not going to say he's played poorly, but he hasn't played up to what you thought he would.
Right.
Now he can reverse that, because I don't want to forget about it. Now you got a second-round guy, and I wrote an article about this last week, and we're hearing early in the year, Jalen Carter from the Eagles had a big game on TV, I think against the Saints, and freaking all world. That's how played good. Had one good game early on national TV if it gets you in the Pro Bowl. The national media jumps on, and you could stink the rest of the year. So Jalen Carter has a big game, and oh my God, he's great. I'll go back to week 11 or week 12 last year. He hasn't played even half as good as Dexter.
Yeah.
Dexter has played his ass off. Now, right now, he's the leading interior sacker in the league. He's got 4. He had 2 1/2 sacks yesterday, so for a total of 1. He had 5 or 6 hits on the quarterback yesterday. He was just killing people. And you don't see now how many sacks he had going into yesterday's game. He had 3 sacks, 9 pressures, and 6 hits on the quarterback. Might have been 5 hits on the quarterback. Well, he had at least 5 hits, maybe 6 yesterday, plus the sacks. I mean, he almost doubled his total in one game. Adds another sack, adds to the pressures. He's having a rare season. Remember we said if he can get 8 sacks or 9, he's had a hell of a year, especially for an interior lineman. Well, hell, he might get 13 or 14.
Yeah.
And that's unheard of. I mean, he's having a Pro Bowl year.
He really is.
You don't hear about it. You don't hear a freaking thing about it.
Yeah, and that's usually the case with interior defensive linemen and offensive linemen. They get kind of lost because everybody's looking at the ball and so forth. But if you study what Dexter and Billings, are doing, these guys are having great seasons. J2K says Billings got a sack yesterday. I love seeing that D line hyped up for him. Yeah, it almost seemed, I saw Dexter go over to Billings. It almost seemed like Dexter was saying, I was going to get him, and I love that kind of energy, I was going to get him. No, these guys are playing like
it's competition is what it is.
Yes, exactly. It's really, really, really good. Yeah, and D. Stanley says that Montez Sweat predicted Gervon Dexter was going to go off this season. What else about this Bears defense is really impressing you? Because I as a joke, put up X yesterday that the Bears defensive backfield is the greatest in the history of the game. And then I put a GIF saying, okay, I'm exaggerating. But this defensive backfield is playing special.
Pretty freaking good. How about they put the backups in and you see the TBU?
Yes.
Jalen Jones had? I mean, that was a hell of a play. They're not only good, they're deep. So, the pressure's on to continue playing good because the guy behind you is pretty damn good too. And Smith is hurt. So, he's been out the last couple of games. Maybe he's got a hip injury. maybe he gets back this week, but they're deep. And Owens dropped an interception that was right in his hands, so they could have had another one there. See, now if I had a kangaroo court, and they probably do in the DB room, he probably had to contribute to the kangaroo court in the DB room for dropping that.
Indeed. Bear Down Bitches says, wish we could see the progress of Pickens, but he's hurt. Yeah, I'm a little worried about Zach Pickens. This is what, year 2, right?
No, it's year 2, but he actually hurt his groin in preseason, and then he re-injured it in the thing. And when you got a soft tissue, a bad pulse, soft tissue, and groins can be painful. So what they're doing now, and maybe they should have put him on IR, and they ended up, bringing up the extra guy by bringing up Cowart on Saturday to the 53. That he's actually falling behind now, because now he can work out. Well, he's got that. But most of it's like elliptical and bike, where you're not going to really strain the groin that much. But playing the defensive line, you can put a lot of stress on your groin muscles. So they got to make sure that's 100%. The strength is back. All the inflammation in the muscle area is gone before you put him back in. And what happens, you tried to come back too early. If you come back too early, all you do is make it worse.
So the Bears today are boarding a plane heading to London, and I think most of us Bears fans are just celebrating that they're going to get there in time for their bodies to get acclimated to the time difference. This did not happen under Matt Nagy when they were facing the Raiders, and that was the game I think that middle linebacker Roquan Smith missed for some mysterious reason. But they went on Thursday, and it looked like they were jet lagged when they were on this football field.
They went Thursday night and got there Friday morning, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, they're leaving late this afternoon, and I'll tell you how I tweeted this out yesterday morning, but I found out by accident.
Oh, tell me how you told me this. Yes.
My doctor's the Bears doctor. I had an appointment today.
You had.
That's right. He called me. He goes, I saw you saw Dr. Schaefer the other day. Yeah. And he goes, how'd that go? And I told him, he goes, well, look, you're supposed to see me, but you can't, because I'm getting on a plane to go to London. And so that's how I found out,
Oh, that's great.
I said, you're going over that early? He goes, yeah. He goes, I think it's a good idea. I said, I do too. I said, I think that's a great idea. So they'll get there tomorrow morning, London time, probably 5 a.m. or something like that. They got the rest of the day. The coaches don't. Coaches got to put together a game plan, and they'll be doing a lot of it on the game. They'll be doing a lot of work on the plane. The coaches will.
I bet, yeah.
Then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are normal days. Now, Flu said yesterday they're just going to do walkthroughs on Wednesday. I imagine it's going to be a little more than just a walkthrough. It could be assignments and everything else, but more or a lot less stressful than a normal Wednesday. And then Thursday and Friday are going to be, they'll actually expand Thursday a little bit, and then Friday's a normal Friday, and Saturday's another walkthrough. But to me, this is the way to do it. You're totally acclimated to the time change. And then you don't have to worry about next week because you're off.
You're off. Exactly.
When you come back. So whether they come back directly after the game or spend the night, they probably come back right after the game. They'll be fine. It's just like the only thing you got to make decisions on today is, okay, how bad's Tevin hurt? I hurt an ankle. How bad? Okay, do you got to IR him? Okay, let's say you got to IR him. Is Bates ready to come off IR? Because Bates is eligible to come off IR right now. Borum is eligible to come off IR, but neither one has been ramped up since they went on. Now they can obviously do stuff on the side. They just can't practice. So that whole scenario would be really interesting to see how they play that. You know, it's a big crew of people they're taking over there.
Mm-hmm.
They have a big freaking play now.
And to me, this is reason number 16,755 that proves the Bears are not cheapskates. There's been this narrative, you know, because of George Halas and the Ditka joke about Halas throws around nickels like they're sewer cap covers. And that may have been true back then, but the Chicago Bears spend money for this team. And this is an added expense. All of the staff of the hotels, this is not picked up by the NFL. This is a team expense, isn't it, Greg? Oh, you froze there a second. Are you with me? He's with me. He's going to unfreeze any second now, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. There he is. I heard him.
Yeah, I hear.
Okay.
No, the league might pick up, because it's an overseas game. The league might pick up something.
Oh, okay.
You know,
never mind.
In fact, when you think about it, both teams got to get money. This is considered a Bears home game. On the schedule, it says Jacksonville at Bears in London.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the Bears every other year they're gonna have 9 home games. This is their 9th home game, and it's being played in London. So they're losing out on the revenue from Soldier Field for that 9th game.
All right.
So I would imagine you got to get compensated somehow for that.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I mean, the NFL isn't making all the money on the ticket sales and stuff that go on in London.
Mm-hmm. Now, Greg, this is considered a home game for the Chicago Bears, but it's the Jaguars who have played. I think it's going to quickly approach 12 games in Europe. Is it really a home game?
They've been playing there for 10 years. I think.
Look at that. So is it really a home game?
They're there too. Next week they're there too, and it's a home game for them next week.
Well, against the Bears.
No, this week is against the Bears because we're Monday.
Oh, you're saying they're
2 weeks in a row.
Is that right?
They're playing 2 games a year there every year now.
I didn't realize that, but of course.
Holy
and
they're
cow!
They're playing, I think, at Wembley next week.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Tottenham this week, Wembley next week.
And I hear great things about Tottenham, a great field and so forth.
That's where the game. Did you watch the game yesterday with the Jets?
I did. I saw some players slipping, so I got a little worried. But
yeah, that was Tottenham.
Okay. So, you know, what's probably going to make it a home game for the Bears is that there will be 3 times the amount of Bears fans than Jaguars. And I'm probably being conservative there when I say 3 times. Bears fans are headed to London en masse.
So I want to know this. If the Bears win, does that become the 10th or 11th straight home game win?
Oh!
Doesn't it count?
That's
considered a home game.
That's an excellent point. I think, you know, what people will have to say a Soldier Field winning streak, and then, you know,
what is it? It's 8 or Bigsy had it was 8 or it's 8 or 10 now. They've won in a row.
I think it's 10.
Yeah. And you know, it put it this way: they got the longest streak in the NFL.
It's a beautiful thing. It really is. And that's how you build winners. It's protecting your home field, as Kevin Byard said in the video clip provided by the Chicago Bears. We protect our crib. I love that. And then the second thing is you got to beat your divisional opponents, and that starts in, I think, week 10 or 11 when we start.
I look at it this way: win at home, split on the road, you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, because that's 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 11 victories. Boy, it only took me 10 seconds to figure that out.
No, it's 12. It's 12 victories. 8
See, I got it wrong.
Split on the road. 8 at home, split on the road is 12 wins. You're in the playoffs.
Jordan's in the chat. He's got a question. Greg and Aldo, do you take any umbrage or issue with Matt Eberflus's win percentage during his tenure with the Bears and the lack of beating quality foes? Context included such as Rams injuries. What say you, Greg?
I don't understand the question.
He's asking, Matt Eberflus's winning percentage.
I throw out year one.
Okay,
I don't
and then
count year one.
He's claiming that the Bears have not beat quality opponents yet because, like against the Rams, they were riddled with injuries. The Cooper Kupp not being here, and blah blah blah.
The Rams very easily
could have won
yesterday.
They got
that quarterback that sucks, and Matt Stafford could have very easily beat Green Bay. Green Bay was ripe for getting beat yesterday. Did you watch any of that game?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
If Stafford could frickin' play football, they'd win the game.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was said last week, he sucks.
He does. And you've said it for many years.
No, you know what? He gets great stats. He can't win games.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what
they had a lot of injuries. So, but the one-loss record in year one is absolutely meaningless to me. Mm-hmm. Because they stripped down the team. They were trying to get a high pick. And, the league doesn't like the word tank, but were they tanking? You're damn right they were. So you can't count that year. You count last year. And last year, they started off, 1-5 or something like that. And then they started winning some ball games. Mm-hmm. Go back to the bye last year, or even right before the bye, and the Bears got a winning record.
I look at it this way, Jordan, is you got to –
positive, by the way.
I know, and I like that about you, because this show would be miserable Monday morning for me if you weren't.
Wow, you won 2 in a row.
That's right. But I look at it this way, Jordan. You got to build an infrastructure of wins. And so you beat whoever is on the schedule. You can't beat the good teams if you don't beat the bad teams. And so let's let this play out. This is the guy's third season. Clearly, the eye test says there are vast improvements on this team. And Eberflus has a direct responsibility to how great this defense is playing. This defense will play good against almost any offense, and maybe I should say any offense in the National Football League.
They put up 400 yards yesterday.
And in the offense,
I don't care who they were playing against, they put up 400 yards.
And as Chris Watts says, just win, baby.
That's I don't know what Green Bay's numbers were, but they put up 400 yards against the Rams?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, they didn't. I'm telling you something, Greg. Jordan Love is not going to pay off. That $100 million guaranteed contract that he just signed, I don't think he's worth that.
I don't think he's going to bust. He's a good quarterback.
Yeah, but he's not.
Is he going to be? He's not going to follow Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers into the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'd quit right now because I don't want to leave a bad taste on the voter's mouth. The way he's playing now, God, that had to be his worst game ever yesterday. And like I said at the beginning, he looks like a 40-year-old he can't move anymore.
No, he can't.
I mean, he got beat up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, there were some plays that he clearly could have thrown the ball better. The receiver could have probably run a better route. But I said, okay, this is what you get when you go off to Egypt and when you could have been spend some time getting some chemistry going with your Mike Williams, your receiver, and your other receivers. So he's not a leader. He's really not.
Oh. Aaron Rodgers is about Aaron Rodgers at this point in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been like that. I'm not going to take anything away from his talent because his talent when he was at his best was ungodly.
Yes, I agree.
But his attitude, I'm going to say going back, the last 5 years or so, has been kind of piss poor, even towards Green Bay. When he was in Green Bay, it's like I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and if you don't like it, tough shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this comparison by J2K. Jordan Love is the next Ryan Tannehill. I do think there's some truth to that, but he's smarter than Ryan Tannehill. I will say that.
Well,
based
Ryan
on
Tannehill had to play like right from the beginning, early in his rookie year on a lousy Miami team.
Yeah.
Okay, where Jordan Love was brought up the right way. He sat for 3 years, just like Rodgers sat for 3 years.
Right.
Okay, and you learn a lot just sitting there. So it's not like you're putting a rookie quarterback in there.
Mm-hmm.
You've watched 3 years of games. You've played in some. You've played in the preseason. You've sat in the meetings. You understand the offense. You understand because of all the tape you watch in meetings and going through game plans and everything else. You're mentally taking reps and you understand what's going on. So once you get into the live reps, so to speak, and the bullets flying, you're a lot more ready for it than, say, like a Caleb who gets thrown into his first game and then the defense is saying, okay, now you got to try to beat us because we're coming after you, son. But now, it's like I said it the first week, because this isn't going to happen all year. He's going to figure out how to beat it, and teams are going to have to back off.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the, I thought, astute comments made by some of the broadcasters, the studio broadcasters, I think they were on CBS, I was jumping around channels, is they said the Jets are running an old offense because that's what Aaron Rodgers prefers. He doesn't like the motion. He doesn't like all the new techniques that are in vogue now and are producing good results because defenses have figured out the old type of schemes that, what's his offensive coordinator's name? The guy who was with the head coach at Denver.
I know he's failed everywhere he's been. He was in Buffalo as an offensive coordinator.
Exactly.
And when he was in Green Bay as the offensive coordinator, he's not. LaFleur was.
Yep.
So he had the title, but he didn't have, wasn't doing what an offensive coordinator does.
Yeah. And I do agree with D. Starr and Jordan and others that are saying that Matt LaFleur up in Green Bay does look like he knows what the hell he's doing. He's a good guy. Nathaniel Hackett, thank you, Swifty.
Yeah.
And Badass Warthog and Zach K and Laz, everybody coming in with the answer. All right, let's see what we got here.
A show coming this Friday, by the way, for anybody who wants to listen.
Friday, what time?
Usually around noon. Swifty, what time? You're on the air here. You're listening.
Yeah.
You're up at 12 o'clock there.
D. Starren is asking, was the game plan to take advantage of the backup linebackers yesterday? It did seem like, that might have been a factor.
Flus said in his post-game presser, it's kind of interesting. He goes, we knew they had new people there. Mm-hmm. And with new people, makes communication tougher.
Yep. That's exactly what he said.
We tried to take advantage of it.
See, your memory is better than mine. Swift says noon is good, so make sure you watch Swift and Greg Gabriel talking football at a very high level. That's this Friday on the Swift Sports Network. And if you're not a subscriber to Swift Sports Network, what is wrong with you? All right, let's see what else we got in terms of questions. He is the best. There's no doubt about it. J2K, Greg, with the bye coming after this next game, do you see more playing time for the starters, given that they can rest next week, and possibly opening up the playbook a little bit more? What do you think?
You mean for this particular game?
Yeah. So, Montez Sweat usually gets 50 snaps. Maybe he'll get 60 or something like that.
I think that depends on the flow of the game, because I don't see Flus breaking away from his way of thinking, philosophy, in as far as doing the rotation on the defensive line. He does it so those guys are fresh, and especially fresh in the fourth quarter when you need them to be fresh. So no, I don't see that. And I'm getting off track here a little bit, but I'm glad Jacksonville beat the Colts. That got the monkey off their back. And the Colts are not the Colts that we played 2 weeks ago. They've had
No.
some injuries on defense. Flacco actually helps their offense. Flacco, I guess, played his ass off yesterday. I didn't see any of that game. It's on the same time as our game, but
the numbers were great.
The defense was just terrible. They gave up a real long touchdown pass, but Jacksonville as a whole has been struggling. They had a fight on the sideline between the quarterback and a wide receiver.
Yeah. So things are not all good.
And I know a lot of people are crying for the GM's head. They're crying for the head coach's head. Stuff like you hear in Chicago. And I don't think things are perfect. They probably want to go to London too, just to get the hell out of Jacksonville.
I don't blame you. All right, more questions here. What about now we've talked about this before. In fact, last week's show we talked about arm length, but Levante wants to know, what are your thoughts on Braxton Jones and Karan Amagaji playing guard with their 35-inch and 36-inch arms? We've talked about this before, but as they say in the radio business, you get a new audience all the time.
There's been plenty of guards that have played in the league with long arms. Long arms is preferable. Or 35, 36, a little long for inside, maybe, but it gets back to hand technique, hand use. We had a guy with 36-inch arms. We signed as a free agent once. I can't remember his name. And he was a little slow with his hands. And you get that's those real long arms. But really, it's not. It's boom. It's get your hands up. It's learning how to use your hands. So I don't totally agree with that. You got a good coach who and you've got a player that wants to be good at his position, then you work on that arm use. And that's just a matter of going through the proper technique and doing whatever you got to do to get your hands up quick. It's not that hard to come out of a stance and go like that real quick. It's the guys that go out like this and then come back. That split second.
Yeah. And you see that a lot in tape.
Yes.
Man, you see it a lot. Okay, let's move on to this question from Ravi just came in. Hey, Greg, Bill Murray looks like he can play. Would you keep him in there over Nate Davis? Yeah, Ravi joined us a little late because he was busy smoking some weird stuff. Just kidding, Ravi.
No, Pryor's taking Davis's spot. Now, could they put Murray at right guard and Tevin back? I mean, it's a possibility, but first of all, how long's Tevin out? We don't know the answer to that. We might know the answer to that whenever Flu speaks today. Now, lately, that Monday press conference has been, it's been a what's the word I want? Virtual press conference where he's done it from his office or whatever. And everybody else is home and asking questions. That's the last 2 weeks anyway. So whether they do that again today, which they may, because of you got to prepare to leave because they're probably going to be leaving Hallis Hall in about 4 hours.
That's right. Here's an interesting question. I thought about this yesterday. AW says, another quiet day for Keenan Allen. Do you see any issues with him? And I posted that Keenan Allen right now, Greg, is averaging 3 yards on the ball flight to him. So when he catches the ball, he's 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. So they got to get him more involved downfield. How does that happen? And why is it taking so long?
Missed time.
Because of his injury, his plantar fasciitis.
He missed a lot of practice time, and I don't think that he's totally that's my take, that he's not totally on. Now, he got targeted more yesterday. And, the touchdown pass was I don't know, it wasn't really a bad route, but it was not the best throw by Caleb. The first throw of the game was not a good throw by Caleb. And as Biggsy said, the wind probably had a little bit to do with that. So he got more targets, but there's so many guys that not everybody can get it. He's going to have his games where he's going to become the man, in that particular game. And probably sooner rather than later. You notice like Rome got a bunch of targets yesterday, but they're all short stuff.
Yep.
We'll see where he got, a couple games ago, he had some deeper stuff. So, it's just gotta, am I worried about it? No, because I think it'll come as he gets more practice time. Because he missed, if you go over to the last part of training camp, first part of the season, he missed about a month of practice, maybe more.
He sure did. Yep.
Or he was limited, which means he's just doing, some routes against air and not against the defense. So give it time. And that's going to be part of the maturity process for Caleb too. Getting used to everybody. He's got to get used to Keenan Allen and how Keenan Allen plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with your assessment. This takes a while. When you have all of these options to throw to, it takes a while to find the rhythm, to find the pace, to figure out what it is the defense is giving you, but also make sure you're getting your top number one receiver, DJ Moore, the looks. Anytime he's one-on-one, you're going to want to throw to him. On that touchdown pass, he had Rome Odunze on the right side fairly open where he could have fired it to him, but he saw, there was two defenders around Rome and there was just one-on-one DJ. He said, this is the way to go.
Which one are you talking about? The
second one, the long one.
Okay, because the first one, the crossing route,
right?
Whoever was running to the left flag was wide open too.
Okay, look at that.
So it was like, okay, take my pick on the touchdown. And DJ was actually, catch and run, as we all saw, where the other one would have been boom, touchdown. So there was multiple guys open on that. I don't know who it was. I have to, relook at that and see. It was either Keenan or Rome, was one or the other.
Yeah, I will look at that and try to post the play on my Twitter account.
You didn't I had to bring this up though. Notice how you didn't hear anything about the play calling yesterday because plays worked.
Yeah. Isn't that weird how that happens?
Yeah.
Well, and I think in this instance, because I know what you mean by that, Greg, but I think that in this instance, the play calling is working because there's more buy-in from the players. That players, I posted this on X yesterday. Mercedes Lewis might go down as the guy who helped save the season because that players only meeting really opened up the floodgates for guys to interact with Shane and for Shane to be critical of the players for not doing this, not doing that. And that's a better environment to work in and play in and so forth than it is when it's just top-down information and it's not robust.
I'm guessing here because I'm not there, but I think there's a little, lack of a better term, touchy feeling going on.
Yes.
Early on, we don't know you. I don't know. Neither one really knew each other, and you had some new players, and so it's what was Shane totally comfortable. And I'm guessing here. I'm throwing a dart at the wall. I think
it's a great guess. Go ahead.
And so now it's like, hey, no, be yourself. And there's times when you got to be a prick, and you got to get on paper. I'm gonna tell you, I responded really when I was a football player. I responded really well to hard coaching, and my coach knew it. So he purposely, on the last practice of the week, would rip me a new a-hole. And then it got to be a joke. I go, is that it now? You done? And then he'd start laughing. But it's because I would play better if I got ripped beforehand.
Yeah. I love that. Jesse Mutarelli says, Greg blocked me on Twitter. Is he still simping for Fields? You want to handle that?
What do you mean? I don't know who this guy is. What's his Twitter name? I'll write it down. I block people that give me asshole answers. If you don't,
Yeah, Jesse, what's your Twitter account?
What's your Twitter name?
Yeah, he'll respond, and then we'll get you guys connected again. But he opens up the topic of Justin Fields. Did you see any of that game? I know it started like at midnight.
I saw some of it, and I thought it was what's the term I used? It was like an infomercial for Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really almost degrading of Fields, the way they kept building up Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
I got to tell you something. Russell Wilson ain't going to freaking play unless Fields gets hurt.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in that game, the Steelers should have won that game. It was the defense that gave up that late touchdown after Fields led them to the go-ahead score late in the game. Now, did Fields have a good game? No, he did not. But he did enough for that team to win the game. There were some other problems. And
I did not see the second half. I fell asleep and the game was over.
Right.
And so I got up this morning, had a look on my phone to see who won the freaking game.
Mm-hmm.
That touchdown pass that Fields had in the first half was a nice throw. He had a couple other nice throws. Really a tough situation. You had a wet field. You had, and I'm not making any excuses, but you come out for warm-ups, then you go in, you got a thunderstorm, you got lightning, you got to wait, then you got to warm up again. And, it just takes you out of your timing, your element, your whole thought process.
Yeah, indeed. I personally still like Justin a lot. I think he works hard. He took some hits in that game yesterday that only Superman could withstand.
He took the one to the helmet to the chin. That should have been a penalty. That should have been a penalty.
Yep.
They didn't call it.
I said that on Twitter, and people came after me. Oh, you're just pining for.
In college football, that guy would have been tossed. That would have been a target. That would have been a targeting call.
Right.
I mean, that was right here, the face of the helmet. I'm surprised you got up from it.
Right. I think a lot of people still don't know what the rule is. It could be anywhere in the area of the head. So if you hit the guy in the neck or up here in the shoulder and so forth, you could still get penalized for that because you're coming too close to the head. So that's
if you look at the college rule, though, I always thought targeting was you had to hit the guy in the head. You can hit the guy in the chest, and if you lead with the crown of your helmet, it's targeting.
Yep. How about that hit with Brisker and Tremble? And Tremble looked like he, was unconscious there for a couple of seconds.
Oh, Brisker been laying out some hits now.
Ooh, baby.
and having fun doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. He does. And when I see him, having helmet to helmet hits, I immediately get worried because he's had at least a couple of concussions in his career, but it wasn't him that was concussed on that play. It was Tremble and Tremble might be out for a while.
I thought they if they really wanted to be different game, but if there's no penalty in the Justin Fields hit and there's no penalty in the Brisker hit, both of them could have thrown a penalty.
Yeah, I thought so too. What about the Josh Allen, the hit that he took? Did you see the replay on that?
Didn't see that. Didn't see any of the Buffalo game.
It was.
But I just heard about the end from all the Buffalo fans saying how the clock management was horrible and that's why they lost the game. That's all I know about it.
Every coach is under attack, except the teams that are winless. Indeed. All right, I got a couple more here, a few more. So J2K, Greg, what's your confidence level in Shane Waldron? He took a lot of heat early. Same with Flus, Morgan, and Swift. Do fans owe them an apology or just a public flogging? I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. It starts with an F word.
It goes back to what we discussed early in the season. Mm-hmm. Everybody's new, and you got a rookie quarterback. And with a rookie quarterback, you don't know exactly what you can do, and you don't know exactly what the other team is going to do to affect the quarterback, and it's a feeling out process. And the quarterback's got to go through the growing pains. And part of that is you're keeping game plans a little bit simpler. You notice everything's getting a little bit more about yesterday. Like I said earlier, Caleb, if you go back and watch, he did more checking at the line of scrimmage than probably the first 4 games put together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was always doing checks and seeing things. So that means, number one, the game has slowed down for him. But number two, he's comfortable with what he sees and confident with what he sees.
I love it. Let us go to Tevin Jenkins. Mr. Inglewood says, so a couple of cortisone shots can't even help Tevin Jenkins at this point for him to suit up. This could be a little more serious than cortisone shots.
Well, it's an ankle. They didn't say if it's a high ankle or low ankle. If it's a high ankle, he's probably going to go on IR. Like I said, it was downfield, so I didn't even see how it happened. I got to watch, the game tape, I guess, to see that. But I just don't. I thought, as I said earlier, I thought Tevin probably played his best half, the first half of the year. But up until yesterday, Tevin had not played good, in my opinion. And then he gets hurt last week. He gets hurt this week. So that's 2 weeks in a row. And the fact of the matter is he has never completed a season. He has missed time every single season he's been in the league. This is the 4th straight year. Technically, he hasn't missed a game yet. But he's missed a bunch of games in his first, 20 games or something like that, or maybe more in his first 3 seasons. So I don't see how Poles can extend him. I just can't.
Yeah, I agree. And there's something going on with him. And, when he was first drafted, his immediate press conference interviews, the guy was happy and, just talking without any safeguards, uncensored. He swore a couple times and then apologized. He was just, and then as time went on, he just seemed more and more guarded. He just doesn't look like he's happy. So I wonder if... And
maybe part of it is, Aldo, and apologies to you for, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago? We were talking about right guard. Yeah. And because I don't remember him playing right guard. But he's played, or last year, I don't remember him playing right guard.
Right.
The year before, I know he did.
Sure.
But he's played 3 positions in 4 years: right tackle, right guard, left guard.
Yeah,
and that can't be easy. So now he's played on the left side before in college. He's played on the right side in college, so it shouldn't be that difficult for him to be on the left side. Part of being good is having everything together upstairs too.
Absolutely.
And so, there's stuff we just don't know. I mean, does he have the talent to be a great player? No question.
Yes.
Is he?
I agree.
Not now, he's not.
Yeah, indeed. A couple of people in the chat have mentioned that one of the things is that Tevin got married, and I'm never going to blame somebody's performance on their spouse.
He was with her the whole time. He was with her in college, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, but sometimes when you do get married, it presents new, not new, but intensified moments of you're going to go to work again kind of arguments, or whatever it could be, and it takes your focus off of football. You're smiling because you know this.
I just think of that, one friend of mine calls it what's the word he uses? The thermostat wars.
Yeah, it happens to people like me. I'm going to work. Why are you going to work again?
That's the biggest battle. You know, I got a jacket on, and my house is freezing all the time.
Same here.
And because my wife wants it cold, and I wear sweats to bed and everything else because it's so freaking cold. She got the air conditioning on 67 degrees, and it's like if it was me, it'd be at 80, and I wouldn't have the air on.
Yeah, I'm not to that extreme, but yes, the temperature here at the house is 5-6 degrees colder than it should be because of my wife, not because of me.
Yeah, I keep saying, when you get a $500 electricity bill in the summer, and you go, see what happens when you want it's cold.
Yeah. Well, and Greg says, did Tevin's wife sprain his ankle? I understand the question. The guy has had injuries. But the reason I bring this up is Danny Shimon made a really good point the other day when we were talking about Nate Davis on Buffon 55. And he said that, maybe Nate, his interest and love of the game has changed after his mom passed away. That happens to people. Life, it doesn't have the same meaning now because you've lost somebody so close to you. Maybe. I'm just speculating. I don't know.
We're all guessing because none of us know him.
Right.
You're not with him. But to me, it gets down to one thing, and I may be totally wrong on this. So I admit I'm throwing dart at the wall here, but football character. And, love of the game, passion for the game, desire to be a great player.
Mm-hmm.
And he got paid last year. I mean, he didn't get paid $20 million, but he got paid a lot of freaking money, and did that all of a sudden when he got paid and all that guaranteed money, did the desired switch turn off?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because
exactly.
You go back and you watch his tape at Tennessee, and it's pretty good tape.
Right.
And at times he has plays when he's pretty good, but the consistency is like this. And I think now that the coaches have seen it, they keep giving him every chance because they want to have the best guy, supposedly the best guy, but that best guy kept getting you beat and disappointing you.
Exactly.
So finally the telling story was yesterday. Last week when Tevin went down, they put Pryor at the left side and Nate Davis at the right guard. Yesterday they kept Pryor on the right side and put Murray at the left guard. And guess what? The line got better.
Yes, indeed.
Actually, that's 2 weeks in a row after Tevin went out. The line got better.
Isn't that weird?
To me, that is a telling sign.
Indeed. And I understand, your premise. You don't give up on a guy right away because he's had a couple of bad games and stuff. But after a while, you got to start to rethink it.
Fans give up on a guy after a bad play.
Right. So people have given up on Velus Jones. I love this comment by J2K. He says, Velus is at House Hall right now, wondering where everyone went. That's a good joke. You got to admit. But seriously, J2K asked he asked this about an hour ago. So who do you subtract from the team if you add offensive line draft picks? Dexter, Stevenson, Gordon, Brisker, all great draft picks. It's not like Bose has made bad picks aside from Velus. And so J2K, I think what we are trying to say is that you don't have to, add to the offensive line strictly with draft picks. There's other ways to do it for a general manager. You can do it
in free agency, but now as what we were talking about before, you got to pick and choose what you do in free agency because of the cost. Mm-hmm. Look at what the cost interior offensive lineman jumped to this past offseason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nate Davis got what was considered a pretty good guard contract a year ago.
Yeah.
That contract is a cheap contract compared to what guys got this year.
Yeah.
And so, guys got double what he got.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to go out and spend money in free agency on a guy? You only got so many dollars you can spend, and you got to pick and choose where you're going to spend it. And you hopefully want an ascending player, not a descending player. And you want somebody that once they get the money their football character is going to stay up here. And looks what happened, I'm guessing, with Nate Davis. He got the money and said, okay, he got comfortable. Now, you could be right, too. His mom passed away, and some of the incentive in his life just went out the window. It's not as important to him anymore.
All right.
But, you get like, what did you get, 20 million guaranteed or something like that? You get that much freaking money and guaranteed, that's like, you're set for the rest of your life. You don't have to bust your chops anymore.
Yep. J2K says Mike McGlinchey was targeted by Post, but Post didn't want to pay him what he was asking. Signed for a lot and has played average. And average could be a compliment, could be generous, right? I've never been a McGlinchey fan, but nonetheless.
Yeah, and there was 3 tackles that were available in free agency last year. There was McGlinchey. There was the guy from Jacksonville who went to the Chiefs and is a penalty waiting to happen with all his stuff are pre-snap, the legal procedure stuff. I can't think of his name. And then there was one other guy, and there was really only one that they had any interest in, but they had a set figure. We'll pay X amount of dollars. And the dollars that average per year that McGlinchey got wasn't too far off. It was the guarantees. When you get into the guarantees, because now if the player's not, you get killed with the guarantees if the player doesn't play up to the way you want. And so they made the decision. Now we'll draft a guy, and they drafted Darnell Wright.
Yeah. You gotta stay true to your budget and only make exceptions on rare occasions.
You gotta stay true to your plan.
Yeah, right.
Whether you agree with the plan or not, whether we agree to their plan or not,
right.
Regardless, when you start deviating from your plan, that is when you get trouble.
What was the Bill Parcells? You start deviating from your draft plans, and all of a sudden your lineup is filled with deviants. No, it's not. I'm messing that up.
Other people. How the hell would that go?
Yeah,
but it was basically the other people's cast-offs.
Right. I want you to address this from Laz. He goes, "What's that say about coaching, Greg? Shouldn't they have known that Murray is better than Davis?"
I got asked that on X this morning too. After I put out that I thought he had the best guard play of anybody this year for the Bears. That's real easy to say. Okay, the fact is, he did it in the preseason against backups. Okay, not starting line players. He hadn't done it. Practice goes into this too. How did he do against Gervon Dexter and Big Bill in practice? We don't know the answer to that. Okay, so that plays into it, and it's confidence. And did they have confidence in him to put him in? Obviously, they decided yesterday, yep, he's the next guy in. We're going with him. And then he was up to the task. But I think a lot of that is, and you see it with coaches a lot, and you could say it's a negative with coaches because it is trust. And don't forget that what he does falls on the coach. But also you could say, well, we took a chance on this guy who was a defensive lineman, and he's only been an offensive lineman for a couple of years, and we took a chance to throw him in, and it paid off. So the coach could be patting himself on the back too. Works both ways. So, and that doesn't mean, the interesting question is, how much does he play going forward?
Yeah, right.
Where's he play? Let's say Tevin is fine. Do you put him on the right side, and then Pryor becomes the swing tackle again? Or do you keep him on the left side and sit Tevin? But we're not going to know the answer to that until next Sunday.
Indeed.
And again, maybe irrelevant because, maybe Tevin's ankle injury is bad enough that he's going to be IR today.
I hope not, but there's a chance of it. All right, a couple more, and we will get out of here. Arnie says, how much of the tackle problems are related to guard play? So talk to me about cohesion between that tackle and the guard that's either to his left or to his right.
Well, it gets down to at the offensive line more than any other. You can switch guys around on the defensive line, and that the change isn't going to change that much with how the defensive line plays. With the offensive line, there's got to be a cohesiveness between all five guys. And so you want to make as little changes as you can so you get everybody playing together. If there's any group that has to play together as one, it's the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And so go back to what I just said. Because in a way I was contradicting what I'm saying now, and that is, okay, so what are the coaches going to do forward? Let's say, if Tevin can come back, do they put Murray to the right side? Well, what you're doing is you're still playing musical chairs with the offensive line, and the offensive line played pretty good. It played its best, real good, when Murray was at left guard in the second half. So, I think with the offensive line, it's cohesiveness, they playing together game after game after game. But at the same time, you want the best guys. And like the one listener just put in there, Borum and should be ready to come off and say, and the same with Bates. But yeah, they're both eligible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they didn't start up. The two guys who were put on IR designated to return at the 53 were Borum and the defensive end, Martin. None of them started their 3-week window last week. They could start this week. But why would you, as Big Z wrote, why would you do it this week with the bye week next week? Now you're wasting a week because you don't have any practice next week.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in both of those cases, those guys, they played in the preseason. It's not like they haven't played. It's not like Amagachi.
Yeah.
And they're veterans. But it'll be interesting. I thought all offseason that Borum wasn't going to make this team. Okay. I think he's here because he got hurt.
I'm just going to say that. Luckiest thing that ever happened.
Because that's and I'm not, no, he wasn't on the active roster. And it's his fourth year anyway. That money's not guaranteed, that $3 million. You open up two of that $3 million anyway if he's not here. But you can't just, you've had injuries. You probably got to keep them all year. It's not like they need the money today from him. But they only got $7.5 million left in cap money. So
I got one more question. Actually, this could be a really good idea for a column for you to write over at Windy City Gridiron, where Greg writes. J2K says, Greg, the bye week is also the trade deadline where the Bears will be doing a lot of self-scouting. Do you see a potential trade coming? And what position would you trade for? Great question. And I think that takes a detailed, thoughtful response. So I'm suggesting Greg write about it.
I didn't know. I thought the trade deadline was a little later, but maybe he's right. I'll
find out.
I don't know. It's a good question. First of all, who's available? And let's go to history. In history, up until the last couple of years, the trade deadline has been a date on the calendar in the National Football League. Huge day in basketball, huge day in hockey, huge day in baseball. In football, it was a nothing day. And then the last few years, there's been a lot of stuff going on. It's like totally changed in the National Football League. Poles has made 2 trades in his first 2 years. That getting Claypool the first year, getting Sweat last year. Could he this year? But yeah, it's who's available. Like you knew at least one of the Washington edges was going to be available. And who are you going to trade for? The only thing you'd probably trade for is an offensive lineman, because you got pretty good strength everywhere else. So who on the offensive line around the league is going to be available in a trade? And can you afford them? Because you got right now it's like 7.6, 7.7. Now you can fix that. You can adjust some other contracts.
Right.
So that's not a hard. It's supposedly a hard number, but it's not. You just take you take like some of Sweat's salary and you turn it into bonus, or you take one of the other guys and take their salary and turn it into bonus, and all of a sudden you create money, and it means absolutely nothing to the player. He's getting the same amount of money. So the money's there to do it. Will they do it? I don't know. I mean, I have the media likes to write up trade deadline, but who's available? Have you heard any names? I haven't heard any names.
Devontae Adams, but of course the Bears have no interest.
You notice that this cap number is next year $45 million.
Get out of here with that stuff for Devontae Adams. No way.
Now it won't be real 45 because that includes his bonus, and the bonus would have to get eaten by the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still got an outrageous cap number. And then now you got 4 receivers, and somebody's got to sit.
Yeah.
And who's going to sit?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. The trade deadline is November 5th. So, Greg, you'll have some more time and to do about it.
You looked it up. Yeah, I didn't think it was next week.
Foster and Swift have confirmed it is on November 5th.
Yeah, I thought it was around, Halloween, something like that.
Yeah, it was moved up from week 7 to week 9, J2K now says. All right, the last thing that I have for you, no more questions because we got to go. But I wanted to get Greg's opinion on this. Kalen Caher wrote for ESPN that NFL teams are now creating cap space by insuring some of the contracts that they have. And that, for instance, one player that she mentioned is like, I forgot, but a superstar player is signed, and an insurance broker now works with the team to insure that contract. And if they have to pay off on some of that money now comes off of the salary cap. And so it creates available cap money. And then she mentioned that 3 of the teams that do not do this are the Cleveland Browns, so they're screwed with Deshaun Watson, the New York Jets, so they're screwed with Aaron Rodgers, and the Chicago Bears, who are not screwed. But do you know anything about this and why the Bears would not take advantage of insuring some contracts to potentially open up some cap space?
I don't know enough about it to answer.
I'll send you the article.
Yeah, I remember seeing something about it. I don't know how it opens. I don't know how it opens cap space. I mean, I get it because the contract is the contract, and the insurance doesn't kick in unless the guy gets a catastrophic injury. That's the way I'm going to look at it, right? Yeah. So it can save you cap money a year from now, 2 years from now, or whatever, but still it saves you on the, again, I may be totally wrong on this. I'm guessing just from my knowledge that I have. The money you paid to him on a guarantee, you're always going to get hit with.
Yeah. Because
that's paid out today. Okay. It's paid out the day the guy got signed, or say a week of the time the guy got signed. So it's like a credit card, but it's amortized over the length of the contract. And if you get rid of the player, then you got to pay off the rest of that debt, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So but it saves you on the remaining salaries in the contract. Okay, and so if the salaries jump up in the later years of the contract, it saves you that. I don't see how it saves you anything in today's contract, today's cap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'd have to ask like Stein or somebody. And by the way, I'll bring it up. I'll say it publicly. I asked Cliff if he wanted to come on. And, he's teaching at Northwestern right now.
Oh, cool.
And he said, I'm going to play it cool play things quiet through the end of the season. Now, he said, people say he might have a bad relationship with the Bears. Well, that's false. He had his guest speakers at Northwestern. Now it's on his LinkedIn, excuse me. He's had Ryan Poles. He's had George McCaskey and other people all as guest speakers for his lectures at Northwestern.
Oh, cool. So I'm glad to hear that there are no hard feelings. I know you were upset when you heard the news, but that softens the blow a little bit to hear that Cliff is doing well and has a good relationship with the Bears. The Bears, the management now gets a lot of thumbs up from people. Some fans may not be happy with Poles and Warren and some of the other things, some of the other people there, but generally they are looked upon very favorably by most people in the NFL. Is that safe to say?
Yeah. A lot of things. What's written in the media, be it national or local or said on talk radio, it's like how the wind blows. So the Bears are on a 2-game winning streak. So
you ain't kidding.
Jokingly, I said, okay, no bitching allowed this week. There was still some bitching. So now it's 2 in a row, and they're doing the smart thing by not going over to London on Thursday. They're going today.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you going to bitch about? Well, you can bitch about what they gave up a 48-yard touchdown run. And, it was really an over, what's the word I want? Like an overreaction by the defense, an over pursuit of the defense because the play started one way and they over pursued to stop it. And there was a cutback hole because somebody didn't play their gap. And you got to play discipline in this defense. You can't lose the gap integrity. So that's what happened. But anyway, right now, I don't see anything to bitch about. But there'll be some bitching going on during the week.
Absolutely. It's people need to bitch about something because their lives are so fucked up. Excuse my language. All right. This has been a great 1 hour and 48-minute show, and you got it all for free unless you want to send over some money using our pay app here on YouTube. That's the first time I've ever asked for money from our people. No, it's not.
Well, isn't there, what do you call that thing where you can donate?
Yeah, there's a donate button somewhere on the screen for the people watching on YouTube, and there's all sorts of stuff. And I want to thank Torian. He's donated to the bar room before, and anyone else who has super chats. Yeah, that's what it's called, super chats. Anyway, thank you all very much for joining us live. You really helped make the show very robust. And Greg loves you. He tells me off the screen, there's a couple of people in that chat room who I'd love to kick their ass. But for the most part, I like everybody there. No, he never said that. He never said that. I sound like a politician, right, Greg? Making stuff up? Go ahead, say it.
No comment. Because you and I are on the other side of the separate aisles.
Let's have a political debate a week before the election. What do you think?
I got to tell you, most fun I ever had at an election.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't, the MAC plays like Tuesdays and Wednesday nights in November.
Yes.
So I went to a Miami of Ohio University of Buffalo game in Buffalo. This is while I was here. And it might have been Khalil Mack's last year at UB. But it was on election day. So they had it, UB wears blue, and Miami of Ohio's team color is red and white. Miami came out in all red, UB came out in all blue. So it was blue versus red, which I thought was kind of fun. I don't remember who the hell won the game.
but that's a good memory, though, of the uniforms. Yeah. Pretty cool. Foster wants to go on the record and says Kamala blows chunks. Anybody have anything nice to say about the person I'm voting for? I guess not. I'm not seeing anything. Anyway,
I'll say one thing. Can I say one thing political?
Absolutely.
If they had a chance, they blew it in the last week.
Really? You think so?
Their response to that hurricane in Georgia and North Carolina, those are two swing states, and they screwed big time, big time.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation about that. Like, for instance, that money was taken from FEMA to pay for the migrants. That's not true. In fact, that's what the last presidency did. Donald Trump's presidency took money away from FEMA to pay for border patrol stuff. So a lot of misinformation out there. That's what makes
$750 is still $750.
Yeah.
And the people in Maui didn't get any money either. Yeah. When the damn island burned down.
In the Huddle says, I see Greg gets his news from Fox News. Where do you get your news from, Greg?
I listen to The Enemy all the time.
The Enemy?
Yeah.
Is that a website or
no,
you're referring to the mainstream?
CNN and PMSNBC.
Mick Foley saying, I hope that was a joke, although I think he's referring to. Yes, I agree. Here's what I agree with when it comes to politics. They are all crooks.
Oh,
they are all
right.
It's, who is the less crook? And so anyway,
all those are flaming liberal, but I love them anyway.
Say goes the other way too. And Mike North, who is also a flaming conservative, he will be on here at 3:00. He will probably have something terrible to say about Kamala. And they're all the politicians. I don't care who they are. They're all crooks. I totally agree with that.
They never tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
They all tell you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that.
Yes.
Okay, go 2.5 years in. Did any of it get done? No, because you know who has to do it? Congress.
Yes.
They can want to do it, but they can't do it.
I'll tell you like a quick story, 10 seconds. Barack Obama campaigned on hope and change and blah, blah, blah. And my wife and I sent a sizable contribution, at least sizable for us. And even immediately after the election, he starts announcing who is going to be advising him on economic matters. This was the first election that he won. And he starts naming off everybody that was on Bill Clinton's cabinet. And I'm saying to myself, are you kidding that I should have voted for Hillary Clinton? Because all of those people were crooks. You're the guy that came in saying change and blah, blah, blah. He settled into the same Wall Street bullshit, and it really pissed me off.
They lie.
Yeah, they do lie. But Gabriel doesn't, and that's why you will tune in next week to listen to more Gabriel Talks Football. For Greg, for myself, and for everyone who loves truth tellers, thank you very much. We'll see you
next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.